Anyway, a few words about myself. First of all, here's where you find my Twitter handle. It also applies to Instagram and kind of to Facebook page. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet me or email me or just follow my blog. I'm a game development evangelist for Microsoft. Now, who of you has a rough idea of what a game evangelist or of what an evangelist does? 2, 3, 4. One of you, 4.5. One of you I've told earlier. It's essentially like a real religious evangelist, except for that we do that for technology. So we talk about how awesome it is to use our technology, and obviously we use it ourselves as well. So, yay, we believe in the ways of Satya Nadella. So what I want to talk about today is Windows, obviously, then a couple of ways of gaining reach and monetization, and then some game-specific things, and platform updates, essentially. Yeah, I can read the agenda. I'm so awesome at my job. Who of you is already using Windows 10? That is actually surprisingly more than Windows 8 at the same time frame. I wonder. And who of you has a rough idea of how the Windows 10 core thing works already? Very good. 2, kind of. Maybe 1. A half and a half. So we have one operating system across all devices. We have one developer platform across all devices called, it used to be called Universal App Platform. I think now it's Universal Windows Platform. We have one store across all the devices and delivering innovation on your terms. Right. And it's still Windows, hidden by the update request. So the way it started was the Xbox 360 and Windows 7.5. Has anyone used Windows Phone 7? Oh, by the way, I was the person in the audience with a Windows Phone. It was cool. It was the reason why, it was one of the reasons why I went to Microsoft. I had one because you could collect achievements. Yay! For all of you German speakers, when I was coming into my old company with that phone, I was from then on only known as the Randgruppenbetriebssystem-Telefonbesitzerin. That's quite a mouthful. Anyway, but you see, those are very too far apart, and I guess it's quite obvious that the Xbox 360 and the Windows Phone 7 didn't have much in common until maybe the 360 started to get rid of the slides. What was it called? I think it was slides, and went to the tile screen, and then moved on to Windows 8, Windows Phone 8, and Xbox One. The thing is, when I was hired at Microsoft, one of my first jobs was to create an app for Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. And it was said that everything is so easy, you just need to, you can access the same libraries to do the same stuff. It's super easy. So in reality, that wasn't exactly the case. But I guess it was much easier than it would have been before. It's just that the same thing would have been called completely differently across the different kernels. But the Xbox One, especially with 8.1, started to ship with 2 kernels. One system is the fully fledged game system, and the other part is for the apps, which is basically Windows 8 kernel. So that was the next step, as you can see here. Called Converged App Model. Maybe you've heard of the universal apps, the last part, but even that thing was actually 2 different apps in the same solution, plus a third project called Shared. So you could manage your code in a way that you had the entire backend code in the shared folder, so you really only had to write it once. And that actually worked because approximately 90% of the APIs were the same for both systems. And you could do the UI design separately for the two systems, and then you just needed to export to two different binaries for Windows and phone. And then Windows 10 started and also got a new edition called Windows on Devices. Is any one of you playing around with Maker stuff like Raspberry Pi or... Okay, so that's essentially it. You can run Windows 10 IoT Core for on a Raspberry Pi, for example. And it's got the same core. It's up on which everything is built. It's got the same app platform, which actually means you create one binary and you can install it on all the other systems. And that's, for example, what I did on Saturday. I created a tiny little game, and it worked on the phone. It worked on the on my laptop that I worked on, as well as both on the Pi. Although I learned that a Unity game on a Raspberry Pi has a performance of a frame rate of about 1 or 2 seconds per frame. But on a Minnow board, it was quite awesome. And currently, Windows 10 is free for everyone on 7 and 8.1. So these are the device families that we have and that we support that you can use. As you can see, IoT is quite hot, the mobile devices with tablets, and we've got the PC and the console. And the same binary works across all the devices, which still makes you consider design aspects as an UI, because it's like with web pages. If you open a desktop-optimized web page on a phone, it's quite horrible, especially when they have these hover things and you just can't get to that part of the menu that you really need. And then there's quite a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can interact with the devices. Do you want to use speech, like for example Cortana? Do you want to have natural user inputs in terms of just touch or pen or gestures? You have quite a bunch of options for user interface design. Does anyone know what Continuum is? That is, okay, 3 people have seen the build presentation. Continuum is a really cool feature where you can run Excel on your phone, for example, and then transmit that image to a TV screen. And instead of just seeing a copy of your phone screen on the TV, it will actually run in desktop mode. So you will see the big desktop software version, well, kind of, on the TV rather than just a tiny little screen where a symbolic image of your phone is shown. So about engagement, obviously the cool thing, because of the free upgrade and everything, and maybe you've read about how many installed versions there are and how many installations per second there are. I think there's about, don't pin me to that, but I think there was something like 30 installations or 70 installations per second. 30, it was. 242 markets, so quite a lot of global reach as well. We have mobile billing operators. That is, you can have people pay for your games and in-app purchases via T-Mobile, for example, which is pretty cool for those who don't have a credit card. And as for discoverability, there is something called personalized app recommendations. So if I, for example, open the store, and then you see app picks that are personalized for me as a person. So it won't be the same for you. It won't be the same for you. They're my personal recommendations that comes through a clever algorithm. And also, if I search for Paint, and I decide that I don't want to use old MS Paint, then I can see suggestions for apps that I can use for the store without actually opening the store. So even if I close this, so the store is closed. Let's search for a calculator. Then you see 2 more app suggestions, and those pop up really quickly. So that's pretty cool also for a developer when it comes to submitting your app, then try to design the store information in a way that people can find your stuff and also that it works with the algorithms. Yeah, then, of course, because we've got the same kernel, we also have the same store. That was one request that we kept getting over and over and over again. It's like, yeah, when can you just like make the store one for all platforms? That has happened now with a design and user experience that is familiar and consistent across all the devices. And the idea is that, for example, if you buy your game on the phone, that you can use it on the laptop. Again, and the Universal Windows platform and just having one binary for the submission helps a lot with that. So, yeah. A couple of things that we have. In-app subscriptions. That is actually, subscriptions are actually new. But what is also new is in video interstitial ads. So you can add those as well. Like I said, mobile operator billing, that is super helpful, especially in emerging markets, like, for example, India, and also Thailand has a very strong Windows Phone market share as well. And we finally managed to create digital download codes to help for promotion and everything. And you can also share your achievements. And I don't mean the classic Xbox achievements, not necessarily, even those. But you can also share your game achievements with others by simply recording it. That works with any single game. It doesn't have to be from the store. It's called Game DVR. I could even use it with PowerPoint. Because essentially what you do is you hit the Windows G button. Then it asks you if you want to open the game bar. And if you say yes, my dear, PowerPoint is a game. It kind of is. Then you can decide if you want to take screenshots or do little video clips and share that, even if it's, I don't know, Steam game or a game that you got from indie, from the Zero or so. And that you can share on your Xbox.com profile, which is pretty cool. Then you've got the Action Center. Yeah, cool. But you can also make it more personal and more engaging. And this part is actually quite interesting because when you get a text message, for example, then you can on the phone, even in the toast notification, but also in the Action Center, respond to that text without actually opening the app. So right upon getting the notification, you can react to that. And that also works with buttons. So you could imagine you have a game that is PvP and someone says, yeah, someone is about to attack you, and you offer the option to raise your defense or to counterattack or so from the button with a premium subscription or whatever. So that's one way to make use of that in your game and to actually increase the retention. Imagine you have that PvP game and that person only gets attacked because he or she hasn't played it in a while. Then getting this notification and this interaction ability, then you could get them back into the game, hopefully. This is Spotlight. This is where you can get app suggestions. I don't have them right now, but essentially it's similar. When you just open the start screen, it just suggests a new app for you to try from the store. And this with Cortana, I've already shown you that when you search for something, you can see some alternate app suggestions that you might not have installed just yet. The store I've shown you. Now let's move over to the gaming part. So, who of you has an Xbox? Oh, come on. I feel like an outsider here. This is the new Xbox app for Windows 10. And yes, you get your game profile and your activity and your friends and everything. But what is really cool about that is not the DVR, well, that too, but that. Do you guys know what this might symbolize? Yes. Exactly, and that works really smoothly. So you imagine you live with there were like 1 or 2 people that were younger than 20. Imagine you live with someone else and you just have one shared TV where the Xbox is attached to. And imagine you want to play a game and someone else wants to watch TV. That is a huge problem. So instead of fighting over the screen time, you could just take out your laptop, boot up the Xbox and connect, and then just play the Xbox game on your PC via the Xbox. So it doesn't run direct, like you don't install the game on your PC, but it's transmitted. And that's pretty cool, and it works very smoothly. I tried it with Destiny. What? Yeah. Of course. I have to test what we are developing, for better or for worse. No, it does work very smoothly, and you can play in your bedroom while someone else watches TV or so. Platform updates, yeah, like I said, you have the single game and multiple device family. Gigantic is currently doing it. The game they're deploying for Windows 10 and for Xbox, and they're currently in beta. And you can essentially play on both, and it's cross-platform and everything. So there's that. And this is how the code model looks. So you've got the core. This is what I meant earlier. This runs on all devices. And on top of those devices, you see a couple of bits and bobs and modules that are on the individual devices. And you just check if this module is present. And if it's present, then you react to that. If it's not, then you just simply leave it out, or you display a message, yeah, you need a keyboard to play this game or so. Or you need a camera to play this game. Or an LED light or so. And we support a couple of what's called programming languages. So any C++ developers? Oh, come on. HTML5? C#? Okay. Objective-C? Nobody's developing Objective-C? Wow. I see the light. The issue is, I just see white light, but okay. And any Android developers? I can see 1, 2. Okay, so on top of the 3 native languages, we've released something called Bridges, where you can port your natively coded apps with the help of these bridges, and 1 or 2 more steps, to Windows apps. So you don't need to rewrite everything, but instead you just take the source code, run them through the bridges, and do 1 or 2 adjustments that are very well explained. And then you've got your store app. Boom. And we've got that for old Win32 programs. We've got that for web apps, Android and iOS. So there's that. And this is something that I tried out. This is nothing official, actually. So last weekend there was a hackathon, and my main job was to support, but every once in a while I got a couple of free minutes. So I did not just work on a tiny little mini game, but also we deployed it onto a miniboard Max. And upon reaching a certain score, we lit up an LED. And that worked by adding the Windows IoT Core library, by the ways of creating a plugin for Unity, but that was quite simple once I figured it out. And just deploying the game straight to the miniboard. And like I said, I had to support the hackathon, but it took us the afternoon and the evening to get everything done. And the way we were set up was I did the game, I did the entire Unity thing and the Unity plugin part, and a colleague of mine helped me with the IoT-specific methods. So there's that, and it just goes to show how simple it can be to do that, because my experience with that kind of stuff before that, 0. So yeah, just a weekend, just a Saturday actually. Then it was mentioned earlier on, we've got DirectX 12, which manages the CPU and GPU a lot better and allows you to make your games more performant, better performing, and you can run games even on less powerful machines, but still showing beautifully. So it basically uses the system a lot better. And helps also with battery life and with frame rates and everything. And if you work with DirectX 12 for the PC, then obviously you're going ahead for Xbox gaming development already in terms of knowledge. I've mentioned this. This is the code support that we support. Then we've got, aside from Visual Studio, the big one for Windows, we've also now released the Visual Studio Code that also runs on Linux and Mac. Also with Unity, and thanks to some third-party plugin, now also with debugging support, which is also quite cool. And the submission has become a lot easier compared to beforehand. Also, I don't know if you have submitted something for the Windows Store and Windows Phone Store, but the two experiences, the two stores, were very different in terms of design and flow of interaction. And now it's actually quite straightforward and clear. And we're supported by a whole bunch of middleware things. Now, since Unity 5.2, finally native support for Unity as well. And also other things like beginner-friendly things like GameMaker, but also Marmalade, which is very C++ heavy. So you can essentially take your pick and work with Unity or JavaScript frameworks or whatever. Is anyone who has applied for ID at Xbox? ID at Xbox is a service for indie developers to publish their games on Xbox One without actually going through a publisher. So you don't have to go to Electronic Arts or through Microsoft Studios or Ubisoft to get your game onto the Xbox One. There are a couple of very successful examples, like #iDarb, for example, who are already on there. But aside from allowing you to get your game onto the console, ID at Xbox allows you to make use of the Xbox Live services on mobile platforms like tablets, mobile phones, etc. Like, for example, achievements, avatar services, and identity services. So you can use the Microsoft account or the Xbox account to associate with the user. And that is Windows 10 specific as well, because there is a specific SDK that has been released to make it easier for the developer to implement these services. Yeah, and in summary, bigger reach rather than just having the, I think now it's 10% or so, market share of Windows Phone. You also have with the same app the reach to desktop PCs, laptops, tablets running Windows 10, 2-in-1 devices, Windows 10 IoT devices, depending on what you want to do with them, or HoloLens. I don't have one, so don't even ask. I would like to have one too, and then we can talk about sharing. Yeah, and this way, Xbox Live services. And this way, we make it a lot easier for you guys to port your games or to bring existing games or develop new games for quite a wide range of platforms as well as people. So much for that. If you've got any questions and want to know about any specific scenarios or things, then please do reach out to me. I can quickly show the contact slide again. And it's actually quite cool that the restart thing didn't pop up again anymore. Do reach out. I'm happy to help and to point you in the right directions in terms of how to get Windows 10 features into your game. That's my job after all.